What we want from our partner is for them to act out the behavior, to show us the wounds we still haven't healed. We actually teach other people to beat us up, dismiss us, humiliate us, and hurt us so that I can figure myself out.
Welcome to the Optimum Human Podcast, the show that interviews the world's top experts in fitness, nutrition, mindset, and beyond. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Optimum Human Podcast. My name is Brian McKay, he's Claude Petroulis, and we are your hosts of the Optimum Human Podcast. Today we've got a gentleman who maybe needs an introduction. He's a mentor to many of our mentors, Mr. John McMullin. John, how are you this morning, sir?
This morning is beautiful. The sod's the right color. It's green and not brown.
You know, the simplicity of the gratitude for grass being green and not brown is just, it's profound.
It is for me. Thanks for asking, Brian.
Absolutely.
And good morning to you also.
Good morning to you. And Claude, sir, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Brian. Thank you for asking. I woke up today, so that's always a bonus. Any day you don't wake up, not that great. Well, it might be great. Who knows? Haven't done that yet.
So, Claude, I have a question. Are you sure you woke up, or are you still in a hypnotic stupor, believing you woke up?
I don't know. Maybe I died, but maybe this is all a simulation. Where who knows, man? Who knows? I don't trust anything.
God, now I want to go on a zombie tangent.
Well, I actually had a car accident and died, and during that NDE or near-death experience, I thought I was still alive. So it makes me wonder even now, am I dreaming this or not?
Well, that's one of my fears, right? I might be in a hospital bed somewhere. I hit my head some point in my life, and I thought it wasn't that bad.
That explains a whole lot.
And and you might be in a coma and you're just living this all in your brain, and everything you've created is in your head. But who knows for sure, right?
Who knows for sure? I often wonder, is there more reality in our night dreams or our daydreams? Actually, my lovely life partner, Lee, spends a lot of time helping people look at their night dreams to bring resolution to their daydreams.
Now, I've got a question. I don't remember. I at least don't believe I have too many night dreams. So does that mean I actually am, in a coma or something? Like what do you think? Are you okay to talk about that sort of stuff? Why don't I dream, John?
Actually, what would you do if I told you you always dream, but because your dreams are threatening or shaming to your human ego, you forget them? And for the few that you're able to, quote, recall, you wake up and try to write them down and forget what you were going to write down before you can write it down.
I think that would be an interesting explanation.
Yeah, it's interesting because I very rarely dream myself, or at least remember them, but last night, for whatever reason, I did remember my dreams, so it's kind of interesting that that's coming up today.
Well, I submit, based on when I was internshipping my biomed engineering work, I spent quite a bit of time at the Ohio State University's sleep lab, in which reading EEGs of people sleeping, everybody dreams. The question is, can we recall our dreams? That is to say, can we allow our ego to process? Because if it doesn't, we get the sweats, we get nightmares, we are in disbelief. So I submit that there is a deeper, more profound reality embedded in our night dreams than our, quote, daydreams when we're meandering around on planet Earth in a hypnotic stupor. I would submit there's more car accidents because people are in an altered state of hypnosis than from drinking or other causes.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Now, I was going to say, this has been an awesome introduction, but for our listeners who don't know who you are and what you do, I think the introduction gave a little insight, but do you describe what is it that you do and how you got to this point in time?
Well, thank you. I'll give you my version because I'm not sure it's true. My background began teaching electronics and airborne radar and navigational systems in the Air Force, so I'm kind of a left brain geek. Designed computers to feed dairy cows. I've run a dozen plus companies. The list goes on. That's all left brain stuff. My right brain stuff got awakened to learning how to teach my ego to trust my intuition. So, among other things, I'm an intuitive that help people discover how they sabotage, how come they have a hidden agenda of running their life in a dysfunctional way, and they don't understand why I can't stop drinking, I can't stop obsessing, I can't stop hurting myself, when in fact there is another part of them that benefits from that. So my job is to help people figure out how come parts of them have an agenda of hurting another part of them.
So it's like there's this invisible script that's essentially causing people to sabotage themselves, so to speak. And I guess if there's a script to sabotage folks, in turn, what you do, I suppose, gives them a visible script to better themselves. Would that be appropriately said, or am I off track here?
Well, it depends on how the ego perceives better themselves. Quite frankly, many of us feel a deep-seated sense of gratification by being pathetic. Others of us find a lot of gratification from righteousness. So from the ego's judgment point, what makes us good, bad, right, or wrong is relative to what we grew up with. From the human spirit's point of view, I perceive each event is necessary to wake us up into another reality.
Interesting. Brian, do you have anything to like?
I feel hypnotized at the moment.
Me too. I'm just like, I've got like those spirals.
Can I share a quick story with you?
Please.
When I was doing my doctoral work in hypnosis, part of the gig was to use hypnosis for entertainment. So I went to a place called the Funny Bone, and we had actually do some stage hypnosis, entertaining people, hypnotizing folks to do weird stuff. And basically, I got credit based on how many times I could make the crowd laugh. So what people didn't know is I actually hypnotized the crowd to laugh with 3 words, and I got a lot of laugh and a lot of credit. And it was pretty interesting to, I believe we're all experiencing stages of hypnosis. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And what keeps us hypnotized in a stupor is our fear and our shame.
And why do they hypnotize us so badly? Like, what's the reasoning behind that?
Well, The answer is, first again, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. All a really good hypnotist knows is we don't hypnotize. We simply provide the environment for people to self-hypnotize themselves. So the question is, how could I hypnotize the better part of 1,000 people simultaneously? It's called misdirected attention. It's what we all do. While you're thinking of something, I'm telling you something else, so it goes in subliminally. And that's why we sabotage ourselves, since the main theme of our discussion today is it true all humans are their worst enemy? We are our worst critic. How come? Because you and I grew up in families learning how to belong. And we either learn how to belong out of compliance or defiance. Depending on what birth order and gender, you either got your emotional needs met by doing what you were told or doing what you were told not to do. Either way, it gave you a sense of control. You lost yourself and became a hypnotic zombie. And once you learn to hear those kind of instructions from your parents or surrogate parents, then the voices show up in your own mind, and you are hypnotizing yourself with that same chatter every day.
So it's continual rehypnosis. And I could see that definitely in some people that I work with, just seeing how they kind of do it to themselves, and I couldn't really put my finger on it and figure out how they keep like reverting. So it's fascinating to think about in that way.
And scary and
well, yes.
shaming. As soon as we hear that something else controls our perceptions and beliefs other than our adult consciousness, we hide from it. That's why many people listening to us talking right now are either incredibly fascinated and continue to listen or have just switched us off.
I could see that.
Now the self-deprecating humor I feel coming up in not only myself, but I also feel it coming up in Claude as well.
Well, yeah, I was about to say generally they switch off and Brian and I get to fart jokes, but I think we haven't stooped so low yet. We've just mentioned them, haven't made any, right, Brian?
Right.
Right. No, I was going to say something about the funny bone.
You mentioned jokes. What is a joke? It's called misdirected attention. So we have what's called the punchline. So the purpose of a joke is to stream your ego into a belief and then surprise it with the punchline. Then we release our emotional deception with laughter or crying, usually laughter. So the bottom line is, how is it we deceive ourselves? And in part, the answer is, it's what we were taught as children. One would say, why? And the answer might be embedded in the nursery rhyme of Humpty Dumpty, who sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, and all the king's men and horses couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again. Why not?
Because Humpty Dumpty had to put himself back together.
Bullseye. So the reason you and I crash and burn and create situations in our life that shatter this, actually that makes the yoke on us, what happens is we have to create a consciousness greater than the illusion.
And with that, how does one strive to begin there? Like, would you say coaching, just thinking about it? Like, how does one begin on that journey?
What a great question. From my point of view, it starts first of all through awareness, noticing how you act out behavior, how you feel, how you hide from the world, how you attack the world, to figure out why you fight, flight, freeze, or facade, not because you're not lucid and an intelligent human, but because there is a part of you that still parents you the way you experienced being parented as a child.
Mm.
Interesting. So it's like this old system that just keeps running regardless of what you've done.
Mm-hmm. I lost count, but I'm going to guess 10, 12, whatever, 1,000 people I've helped become non-smokers, 150,000 people that went through our workshops. And why did they come? Principally because they became aware as an observer rather than a participant of their behavior. They're going, why do I need to keep smoking? Why can't I quit using drugs? Why am I stuck? Why am I an alcoholic and what have you? I would say our addiction is not to drugs, not to cigarettes, not to sex. Our addiction is to the shame and the fear of feeling out of control by participating in those rituals. That's our real addiction.
But that seems so counterintuitive, you know. It's like you throw yourself into these positions that obviously aren't good for you, but in the same time, part of you wants it. It just seems kind of sick.
Bingo.
Well,
yeah, I'm just like.
Did you hear what you just did? You're hypnotizing yourself right now with your shame and fear. That's sick.
Well, I think it's a judgment. It might be hypnosis in a way.
It is. Every time you have something to say about yourself or the outside world, which is self, you're using harsh judgment to make yourself feel helpless. When you feel helpless, you have to disassociate. I know that traditional therapy has many titles for different forms of disassociation, hypnosis, being in an altered state of consciousness. But when it really comes down to it, the agenda of our incarnation may have been to fulfill destiny by deceiving and tricking ourselves so we could wake up to a consciousness of how to not do that so long or as much or as often. Are we all programmed for self-hypnosis, shaming, blaming, threatening, hurting? Yeah. For example, the number one physical killer is what? What kills more people than anything else?
Stress?
Heart disease?
Stress?
Yep, heart. Broken heart.
Okay.
Well, we call it heart attack. Who attacks our heart?
I guess we or the world around us.
Our
us?
Attachment to something?
Yeah, our perception of the outside world. My girlfriend left me. I think my heart is broken. My dog died. All of the things we attach to that we lose creates incredible sadness. We grieve. And if we can't grieve ourselves through the sadness, we store it in our body, specifically the heart, but many other places. We can put all kinds of stuck energy in many places in the body. But think about it. Well, I don't know what you guys know about a heart attack. It simply quits nurturing itself. It starves itself of blood flow.
That I was not aware of.
Well, it's how it works, among other things. We actually attack glands, organs, muscles. You guys, being personal trainers, know your job is to show folks how to stretch and move and exercise physically to get life force energy moving back through people. That's what stuck energy is. You're trying to help them get unstuck physically. What if we could help people get unstuck emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and intuitively?
I think that would be a great benefit for.
I think that's the point of why all three of us do what we do. If I can project myself onto you guys, but.
Oh, you're on it. That's why I do workshops. That's why folks come, because they want to learn not how to hypnotize people, but actually learn how to teach people to dehypnotize themselves.
Yeah.
Because
Can I demonstrate the hypnotic stupor you're in, Brian?
Please.
See, there's a part of you that says, bring it on. Another part going, I'm not so sure about this. But here we go. The conflict is normal.
Okay.
Brian, what happened to you when you were in the third grade?
I moved to a new location and got made fun of basically immediately.
Got it. And when Brian got moved to a new location, lost his friends he was connected to, and tried to fit into a place of, quote, new friends, all those friends needed to feel connected by making Brian the black sheep. So when everybody agreed to beat up Brian, they felt bonded and connected. Is that what you just said?
Not in those words, but I suppose.
Then what happened to Brian? Once you realized you'd been ostracized, know that the most significant need of the human ego is to belong. Now you don't belong. Now what did you do?
I believe that is probably about the time I started acting out in rebellion.
Absolutely. If you couldn't get your emotional needs met by being part of the gang and then patting you on the back, then you did what all kids do. You became defiant and started getting attention by being a pain in the ass.
Yeah, some things never change.
Well, this actually required you hypnotizing yourself. And I would say it caused you to numb yourself out based on how painful it was to have other people judge you harshly. You still do that.
Yes.
Thank you. I usually am not that lucky to have someone jump into this that quick, Brian. Now, numbing ourselves out, Brian, works for and against us. Everything has a light and shadow. How it works for you is you would be the person that says, you can't hurt me, you can call me names, I don't care, it doesn't matter. So you survive life no matter how painful it gets. It's also why you have trouble recalling your dreams. The shadow side is it makes it very hard for Brian to have an intimate relationship with himself in the presence of a lovely partner. You have a defended heart. So as soon as a life partner becomes intimate with you, you hide. Are you aware of that?
At some level, yes.
I'm okay with that. What if I said, I believe you're far more afraid of intimacy than harsh judgment?
I would believe that.
That's rare, Brian. Most people would not believe that. Now, let's say anything I've just said is a half truth, because if you believe in Hermes, the Hermetic philosophy, there can never be, the mind cannot conceive of absolute truth. What we perceive is our perception of absolute truth. So given that half of this might be true, how could we help Brian undefend his heart so that a significant other can experience themselves by entering your heart so they can be in their heart?
Everything just kind of went blank on me.
There it is. That's what I was waiting for, Brian. When everything goes blank, when you can't recall your night dreams, when you can't even remember what was just said in your daydreams, this is where the human ego feels threatened and ashamed and says, I don't remember what you just said, and I'm not sure it even matters. That's why we call it a defended heart. So welcome to being a human, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
All humans process life in this very way. Now, can I invite you to awaken to the consciousness of being not just sexual, but sensual? Sexuality is the masculine energy of doing, urgency, desire. Sensuality is the receiving, the tenderness, the accepting, the creativity of accepting life as it is. Would you like to visit another concept that will help you open your heart?
Absolutely.
First, I want to honor 8-year-old Brian, who showed us and allowed us to revisit how painful, beyond words, how painful it was to have to survive by walling off his emotions, walling off his spiritualness, his sense of belonging, and attached to being defiant. It's what boys do to survive. Little boys compete, little girls nurture. So I'm going to take your ego to another place with your permission. Do I have it?
Yes, absolutely.
What happened when you were 16, Brian? You were probably a junior.
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that comes up for me is I broke my leg in a car accident.
What happened when you broke your leg in a car accident?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I follow your question.
Well, you broke your leg.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happened? Who took care of you?
Okay. If I recall, both friends and family.
You're right. For the first time, Brian actually had to say, open your heart and receive nurturing energy from other people. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that that's accurate.
Okay, for now, we'll go with it. So there was a place in your life, an intersection where you learned to defend your heart, and another intersection in your life where you learned to open your heart. Is that what you just told me?
Yes, it is.
Which was harder, to create a defended heart or an open heart?
Creating the open heart is definitely more difficult.
Absolutely. No wonder most of us are walking around with a shield around our heart. You can have sex with me. We can go out and eat. We can do this or that. It gives us a sense of attachment to another person. The only way we can truly, in our heart of hearts, feel connected with another human is to let them in. And if I, in my childhood experiences, was hurt, if I found the painful consequences of letting you into my life, I'm not going to do that. What you just did, Brian, in a few moments, is allowed your listening audience to experience a question in their mind. Where did I learn to put a shield around my heart, block everything out, get into my head, intellectualize everything, rationalize all of my emotional needs? And has there been an intersection where I, for reasons I don't know, learned to open my heart and let people in and nurture me so they could feel nurtured in the process of nurturing me without being pathetic? Is that what you are teaching us today, Brian?
To be completely honest, I got lost in thought as you were speaking there, which is
good. That is exactly what I just did, is hypnotize you. I created you of an environment where your mind went off traveling, processing your own stuff. And while you were off traveling, processing your own stuff, I was doing what was called a post-hypnotic suggestion. You want the evidence it's true?
Sure.
Why would anybody want Brian for a life partner? Notice how different you're going to answer the question now. Why would anybody want you for a life partner, Brian?
So my first response is I don't know. If I look a little bit deeper, my response then becomes because I have so much love to give.
Wow. Did you hear how your words just softened?
I suppose so. I also just noticed a wave of warmth come over my entire body.
Thank you for noticing, Brian. By the way, Brian, the question that you invited me to ask you is so difficult. I wondered if we could invite Claude to take a shot at why he believes anybody would want him for a life partner. Claude, thank you for choosing to or not to participate. Your call.
That's actually a good question. Off the top of my head, what just came to me is because I feel like I want to nurture people and I want to help them and improve them. So that's kind of what comes off the top of my head.
Magic answer, Brian, or Claude. That was so important. And as a matter of fact, that's why many people think we matter, because I'm able to make other people feel good. I can nurture them. I can help them. I can take care of them. And the truth is, it's a myth. No human is capable of helping another human. The only person that can help another human is
themselves.
That's it. So you own a myth that if you can make someone happy, then you get to be happy over them being happy. You also own the myth that if they're sad and you can somehow help them, but you don't help them and they're still sad, then you're sad about them being sad.
Very true.
Now, these are
This
just
is
such radical ideas for the general population to understand.
true. We've probably lost at least a 30-year listening audience already. So, we never fall in love with another human. We fall in love with our experiences of what we make another human. And what do we make another human? Our stories of who our mom and dad were.
Now, how is that?
Well, have you ever heard, we don't marry people, we marry our experience of their behavior?
No, actually. I've heard we don't marry people like oh, like he totally married his mom or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I guess in that way, definitely I've heard it.
Sure. So all the things we liked or disliked about the opposite gender of our parent is what we reattach to, connect to. So the things you like most and least about your mother is exactly what you find in your significant other or your father. So we've heard of mommy's boys and daddy's girls. We marry the behavior we experienced from the opposite gender.
It makes a lot of sense.
Well, that comes as good news and it comes as bad news. Since both of you are talking to me with your hearts today, I might as well just go ahead and say something to blow you over the edge. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sure.
How many people are in the sack when you're having sex with your beloved?
Oh man. I don't even want to fathom a guess. That makes me uncomfortable.
I appreciate your authenticity. So the answer that comes to mind is 3, the 2 individuals and then the combined individual.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. There's another consideration, and the other consideration is 6. Each partner and their mom and dads.
Okay, I was going to say, wow, that's some kinky shit, but
you know what? I was thinking of taking it even further, because not only are you bringing your mom and dad into it, but previous partners and all of that, and you're projecting previous issues, and you're just memories are creating the future. So it's
actually, your answer is very profound, because it's not just your mom and dad. It is the many stages of experiencing your mom and dad. And so in the world of therapy, they have a word called an Oedipus complex, and it has to do with why little boys fall in love with mommy and little girls fall in love with their daddy. That is what they make them, not who they are. And so if we fall in love with a daddy who is a drunk, that is, not that he drinks, but because his behavior is unpredictable, then you're going to go out as a little girl dressed up in a lady suit and find a man who acts out unpredictable behavior, just like daddy. And some of us grew up with a daddy who was a dry drunk, and some of us grew up with a daddy who was a wet drunk. But either way, it's the unpredictability of behavior. And if you grew up believing the only way you could be paid attention to is to be hurt, then you will have a life partner that hurts you so you feel paid attention to. That's called Self Sabotage.
And it's fascinating because it rings true to me, definitely. I can see it all over the place and in myself.
So you didn't call me today to inform you. You called me up to affirm you. Both of you already knew all this.
I think under the surface, yes, but the way that you bring it to the surface and make us aware about it is completely completely different, you know.
Many of us make up stories about what we want from a life partner. What we would say is, I want them to love me. I want them to adore me. I want to adore them, and on it goes. The word adore is emotional attachment. It's actually another word called infatuation.
Mm.
Little do we know that we have what's called a spiritual agenda, far outside of the spectrum of how the human ego works. What we want from our partner is for them to act out the behavior, to show us the wounds we still haven't healed. We actually teach other people to beat us up, dismiss us, humiliate us, and hurt us so that I can figure myself out.
Wow. That's
It's rare that both me and Claude are speechless on this podcast. So congratulations, John.
yeah, no, it just makes so much sense. Like I mean, obviously some people listening might be like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Pretty much.
But like I'm just like blown away. I'm just like, oh, my brain is I think it's turning around inside my skull, so maybe that's why I can't speak.
Melting.
Yeah, melting, just rotating, whatever.
Well, that's pretty common in my sessions that I do with people. And I'm privileged, and I do mean privileged, to speak with people all over the world, because many are called and few are chosen. Why are the few chosen? Because they finally achieved a threshold of consciousness called, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Most of us are sick and tired, but we're not sick and tired of being sick and tired. But for the few that said, I'm ready to surrender to another possibility, what happens is the ego does exactly what both of you are experiencing right now. It's called overwhelm. When the human ego begins to lose control of a concept it cannot control, it starts blanking out, saying, God, I don't even know what to say next. But this is good, because when your brain is in disorder, that is, your ego is in disorder, and I hurry up and say coherent post-hypnotic suggestions, it changes how you feel without realizing you feel different. So we are all highly suggestible. When people tell me, I love people who say they can't be hypnotized.
Usually the most hypnotized?
Oh, yeah. They're already in. I don't have to do any induction. They're already there. They're in total disbelief of who they are. But anyway, I'd like to bring back a coherency of relationship that we think we're looking for someone to be in love with, someone to be make us feel good. Truth is, we are in pursuit of learning how to have a functional relationship with ourselves, no matter who we're with. In other words, everything is self. No human can love you, whatever the word love is. It means different things to different people. I call it unconditional accepting. I call it compassion. I call it understanding, embracing. There are many other words. But what we want from a partner is for them to allow us to get pissed off and not take ownership of feeling the shame or the fear we're pissed off. We'd like for them to witness us, not participate with us. So, what then? This incredible, difficult question. Why would anybody want me as a life partner? And the defended ego says, well, because I'm charming, because I'm rich, because I'm good in the sack, I make a good omelet. On it goes. The ego responds with what it can do. The spirit says, the reason you want me for a life partner is based on how you experience yourself about me. So if it isn't me, you'll never marry me. You'll marry your experiences of me.
Wow. That I don't know if anyone's ever said this to you, but that's pretty profound stuff.
Well, I've had some people say it's pretty profane stuff.
Brian and I get that too.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to stop my chatter of streaming and ask each of you, do you have any reflections about what we learned from each other, so I can tell you what I learned from Brian and Claude?
Well, to me, while we were just talking about the last part, I felt that people often get in relationships for a sense of stability and for a sense of control. But essentially all that stuff just doesn't exist because we're never truly in control, are we?
I hope not. The ego has a very different story. It says, oh yeah, I'm enough. I can make you happy. No. The reason we act out intense control dramas is because we don't feel in control. And the two control dramas are the two extremes, to either be righteous or pathetic. All humans do this.
And of course that stems from fear and shame. Like, it's because for me at least, not having a sense of control definitely comes from fear of, instability, what happens next, what happens now. So it's definitely, it's fascinating to think about the overall concepts, because even though I try to be mindful and aware, there's still things that I'm working on, which I think is a good thing, because if I wasn't working on them, who knows?
Well, we have a name for people that don't work on it. It's called rigor mortis.
That's appropriate.
Brian, may I say something, and then I'd like to hear the rest of your reflections.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that you opened up and allowed me to step into your energy field. All of us carry a holographic energy field of everything we've ever been, are, or ever will be. That's right. I can actually read the energy of your future self. The reason I don't share that with people is it's too scary. It's called destiny. And the human ego struggles and fights with destiny. It wants to believe it's in control. But I wanted to thank you that you allowed me to just somehow mysteriously enter into your field. That is the work I teach in my workshops. I want to teach human egos how to say yes to the intuitive perceptions of life.
I think it's great work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate, you, I guess, honoring my willingness to, participate, really. And to answer your question, I think the thing that comes to mind as far as the most profound thing that I learned today is just the fact that you reaffirmed something that I already know, which is that I'm not looking for answers. I'm just looking for somebody else to affirm what I already know.
And someday you won't need someone else to affirm you. You will actually create the dialogue between your mind and your heart, the intimate connection of the mind and the heart. The mind owns a belief, the heart affirms it. Only shapeshifts it into compassion rather than anger.
I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of listening to our own podcast because I'm not a fan of my voice. But I am excited to re-listen to this episode.
Oh, me too. I think whoever stuck around. I think it'll be worth the ride.
Absolutely.
At least it was for us. I mean, hey, if our listeners, if they need time to find it useful, that's fine. But I think, wow, what a journey.
Absolutely.
Well, Claude,
before
I hang up, I'm going to hand you a gift, okay?
All right. I'm willing.
I'm going to tell you that you never knew your dad, and you certainly didn't understand his behavior when you were 12. If you could reframe your dad being a little boy dressed up in a man's suit, believing the only way he could be in control is to one-up you, you will bring compassion to your heart.
No, and you're very right. I pretty much still don't know my dad, right? Like, he's in another country, living his own life, so it's yeah, spot on.
The part that hurt you was watching how your mother hurt, and you tried to parent your own mother. In the vernacular of counseling, they call that a disorder when a child feels sorry for a parent and tries to comfort them. It's energy flowing backwards.
Wow. I never thought about it like that.
Well, look, you two are among the few. Here's my evidence. This program could not exist without your agreement to work with each other. The intimate connection, your ability to play. If you want to know how intimacy expresses itself in human form, it comes through playfulness, among other things. There are many other ways, but you play with each other. You accept each other. There's things you do and don't like about each other, but you accept each other. And your mission to make these programs available to those who have ears to hear and a heart to know and to feel is a great gift to the world. And I would invite both of you to please continue helping those who are drawn to the vibrational energy of consciousness that you guys provide. Let's celebrate that with a hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah for sure, yeah. So, Brian, I hate to get to the wrap-up questions, but we want to be respectful of John's time, of course.
Yeah,
and,
I know we got a few minutes left. For one, I'd like to kind of see what it was that you learned from our call today, John.
Oh.
I found two little boys dressed up in men's suits ready to play. You came over and played in my sandbox, and you let me come over and play in your sandbox. And we learned from each other by affirming each other. What I learned from each of you and accessing your energy fields is all of the challenges in your life are necessary for you. Without resistance, we don't grow. Through physical exercising, you need the resistance of weight to build muscles. You guys are doing that emotionally, mentally, spiritually. What I notice about what's going on with you, Brian, is you have a need to belong. because you were taught the pain of not belonging. And what I notice about Claude is he found a brother. You are his energetic brother. You guys are connected together, and I get to witness this. I could go on and on with a long stream of what I learned from you guys, but mostly what I learned is the courage to witness the resistance and the curiosity to return to innocence. So those are the three prayers I offer all of my clients. May the higher purpose be served. Surprise me, God, and return me to innocence.
Wow. Truly, the word that comes to mind is humbled right now. So thank you so much, John.
Now you know what I learned. You said it well.
Beautiful. Normally we do a few wrap-up questions. Keep it nice and short today. So if you were to be able to have someone or hear someone on this podcast, who would it be, and what would you want to ask them or hear them talk about?
Their names would be Brian and Claude, and I just did.
Again, humbled. Where can people find out more about you? I know you've got some books available, programs. How can people get in touch with you, John?
Thank you for asking. I have a website, journeysofwisdom.com. I've written and co-authored with my lovely wife a dozen books or so on Amazon. We've also, we do videos on a regular basis on Facebook. Right now we're, I don't know, maybe a dozen and a half or thereabouts videos, half hour long, under the name John McMullin, or you get it at journeysofwisdom.com. And these are videos where my life partner, Lee, and I talk about challenges. The last one we talked about how to get back into balance, a whole host of titles. Say again? Oh, yeah, the last one we did is Mending a Broken Heart. There's a lot of good ones. They're all, there's many titles and one truth. What other questions have you guys got?
I think I'd be interested in a few books that you'd recommend to us or our audience.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to bend the rules. I believe the greatest wisdom cannot be learned out of a book. I've written a dozen plus, thousands of articles, and I'm going to tell you, every time anybody reads them, they'll get their own wisdom from what they read. We don't read to pull wisdom from an author. We read to get affirmed from our own wisdom of how we interpret the author. So there's nothing that replaces the experience of living life. Some of us, many of us, are surviving life. For those of us that wake up out of our hypnotic stupor and start living and celebrating life, I would ask you to do this. The real book I'd like for everybody to read is called Start Noticing What You Haven't Noticed.
Now, is that an actual book with an author, or is that just, hey, start noticing what you're not noticing?
The answer's in your question.
Beautiful.
I think it's a book many people need to read, and they'll come up with a lot of good answers. Awesome. Well,
since we've still got you on here, what is your definition or who comes to mind when you hear the optimum human?
Well, it is such it's a question that has so many aspects to it. The aspects of the human is, first of all, to realize we are all snakes. We think we're about our bodies, but we shed our bodies again and again and again. What really is the essence of the self is what I call the configuration of energy. It's where people go when they, quote, die. We actually take all of our experiences, and some people would say reincarnate into another body. The human essence is eternal. The body we choose for a very brief blink of the eye is here to experience the duality of this literal realm. This is the only realm where the illusion of time allows us to perceive the consequences of our choices. In every other realm, there is no time. You think it, you are. In this realm, you think it, and you become, and you learn consequences. It's a beautiful place to have incarnated yourself into human form.
Holy smokes.
Pretty much. Wow. And on that note, I believe it was our guest Jator Pierre that referred to you as a wizard, and I don't think that is wrong.
That's why I have to take a whiz once in a while. I wanted to say, if I can, very briefly,
Please.
I do workshops, many of them here in the Cape Coral area, and both of you are invited. And I will arrange for you to show up. We do 5 days, but if you found a way to pay your way to get here, I will make special arrangements for one or both of you to participate. Here's why. It is rare that I find a recipient as open as I believe your hearts are. And I really would like for both of you to carry the torch of conscious compassion into this literal world. And I will download that information not through words, not through behavior, but through pure thought. If you come, so it is. If you don't, maybe we can take some time individually on the phone. I'd like to visit with both of you and show you the myths and the stories you've made up about who you think you are versus who you are.
Well, I would definitely be down to take you up on that offer.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
extremely generous of you.
I'm honored and humbled. Thank you, John.
So am I. Humbleness is very different than humiliation. Humiliation is a projection of the human ego. Humbleness is a reception of the spirit of the heart.
Wow. John, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah,
and,
my mind is absolutely blown, which is probably a good thing, but...
and everyone, thank you for listening. We're going to have all the info up on the show notes. Brian, thank you for telling your story. John, thank you again. And everyone, will catch you next time.
Thanks to both of you for the work you're doing. And Yahoo!
Yahoo!
Love it.
Oh, perfect.
Until we meet again, folks, thank you again for making this possible.
Thank you, John.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Optimum Human Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to head on over to iTunes and give a 5-star rating and review, which will help spread the word to more awesome listeners just like you. Head on over to theoptimumhuman.com and subscribe to the free newsletter and get the Optimum Human's Blueprint to the Optimum Life. Download it instantly. Thanks for listening.